Alright, so today I'm going to be making a video about just trying to. It's crazy because I've spoken about these things so much that you kind of end up like, how do you say, like, there's only so much you could kind of talk about until you're just kind of rehearsing old things. But I guess that kind of shows you how I think. It's just I live in the past. You know. But just to get into the basic log of it all, just I have not been taking the ashwagandha simply because it's like I'm losing faith in it. I don't think it's working. I've tried religion, philosophy, positive thinking, more masculine thinking, like just be a man, just go do that. Now I've taken adaptogens and medicinal herbs like ashwagandha and L-theanine, and nothing seemed to quail, if that's the word, to suppress the stress. That's the thing I want to talk about, really, is that philosophy, religion, any form of thinking, it's just thought. It's just thinking, right? The most important thing is the action. Do not run from stress, ever. Because what ends up happening is that it gets bigger. It snowballs into a much greater thing. A couple of videos ago, I think I used the analogy of it's as if you're on a train, right? And the objective is to jump out of the plane. I mean, the train. And in the beginning, it seems to your perspective like it's going pretty fast. Like if it's going 15 miles an hour, you're like, oh, if you allow that fear, that irrational fear, to linger, it'll naturally get, it'll get faster and stronger. Then it'll go 25 miles an hour, then 40, then 50, then 70, then 80, 90, until you're going like 200 miles an hour. And then now, the objective of jumping out of the train seems a lot more daunting, a lot more severe than when it was at 25 miles an hour or whatever. Now, being at that speed, looking back behind you at the previous speeds, you sit there wishing you would have jumped out at 117 or 80 or 65 or whatever, But you continued to remain on the train. So that's what I've discovered, very revolutionary. I know, groundbreaking technology, phrasing, philosophy. I know I'm revolutionary. I'm kidding, of course, but I was actually just kind of thinking about it because I was like, I can't believe it's been 2 years since I was 20. It's been 2 years, and I'll be honest, I saw a TikTok from this one girl I like, and she's been doing very well with her boyfriend and stuff, cuck mode. Her boyfriend's working like 2 jobs also. She's working 2 jobs, and she's got one of those daycare jobs, not literally a daycare job, but she's got one of those like basic job, just answering emails in the office with air conditioning, just very, very basic. But people, they get paid a lot of money just answering emails. She has an office job, and apparently recently she she's financing, what is it? She put a down payment and she's paying monthly on a Tesla Model 3. And it's funny because I've been really getting into the sounds. I think what it is, it's loss of identity. So you cling on to external things. People do that with politics, when we lost the foundational structure of religion, which gave us a lot of foundation, people want to cling to other things, right? Nationalism, race, looks, which is, I mean, that's always been present. Those things have always been present, but now they're much more, looks are more important than I guess they would have been like 2,000 years ago or something. Insecurity still existed, but anyway, it's crazy because she bought this Tesla, again, down payment and whatnot. I assume she did because in the hashtag she put Tesla Model 3 or whatever. So I was looking at the way her life is set up. She has her boyfriend who's working, and by the way, these this chick, she comes from like simple beginnings like me. I was significantly more poor than her, but she was still like basic Hispanic, very poor. And she, both her her boyfriend and her, they're working many hours every day, respectable, very commendable. And they have this like pretty good apartment, where they're staying at. It's Texas, so it's not too expensive. It's not like it's a studio for like $1,000. It's a pretty, she showed it off. It's pretty decent, and it's interesting. It's like, again, like I said, because of lack of identity, because I have no identity, no sense of self, I cling to a lot of things. A few months ago, I wanted to get into the carnivore diet, only consuming animal products, no gluten, no carbs, no sugar, just animal products, to go into ketosis. Now, as of the last couple of months, I've actually preferred to get into veganism or vegetarianism specifically. They're two different things, but they're very close in proximity. And specifically within vegetarianism, I wanted to be a lacto-ovo vegetarian, which means I would still consume dairy, like cheese, milk, yogurt, butter, and ovo being eggs for protein. So one of the reasons why vegans, they don't last that long is because like you just become very nutrient deficient because you're not getting iron, you're not getting enough, like things that are found within the animal products, But the thing about these ideologies and diets is that they're not trying to they're not trying to remove all suffering. They're trying to like limit it a lot, And there's many debates on it. For me, it's partially because of diet, and two, because it is. I don't agree with factory farming. I understand it, I guess, but I don't agree with it. But it's simply like lack of identity, and that also, that identity with the vegetarianism also kind of corresponded with more like environmentalism. Nothing. It's weird because it's like, again, anything political in regards to me should be completely thrown out the window because I switch up a lot on it. I'm very susceptible to emotion, right? Very susceptible. And I don't say that out of like irrationality. I say that out of experience. Things that I've experienced in emotional sense, I feel more, passionate about. But things that I am not so, sometimes they change up a lot, I might talk about that. And I don't know, I saw that this chick's life, that's what my life should be. I made a post about it like a while ago. I think I made a post before I took down everything that I really liked. I think it encompassed a lot of what I felt. And that's one of the things. Acknowledging these things doesn't mean that you are, any which, way more in the clear or something. Like, it's actually much more embarrassing if you're aware of these things and you continue to fall down, these paths of just repeating the same thing constantly, which I'm such a slave to. I notice that. And that's one of the things I want to talk about, philosophy and religion and all these things. It's like, I feel like the most important thing really is just the way your brain is wired, right? Like, I remember I saw this experiment that was like, they put little babies, like infants, they put like 10 kids in a cage with a massive snake. The kids didn't know that it was a snake. Like, I mean, they're kids, they weren't afraid of it. So that shows that there are things that, it's not instinctual, we learn. And that's a very big thing, because like most people, including myself, if somebody walks up on the pier with a snake and, look, you put it around your neck, let's take a picture, I'd run away. I'd run away like a little girl. I don't like snakes. And those kinds of things, it shows, like, even right now, speaking of it, I know the probability of me being killed by a snake, it's very improbable, especially if it's on a pier, because most likely it's like a devenomated, or whatever the word would be. They would like remove all the venom, or maybe the fangs, or maybe it wouldn't be a venomous snake in the first place. It would just be a regular snake. I could have that conversation with myself. I could say, it's not going to kill you, it's not going to harm you, it's not going to bite you. Even if it did, you wouldn't really, I've been stung by scorpions. I live in the South. I've been stung by many scorpions. I've been stung by bees, by wasps. They're not the worst thing ever. It's not like, I've been stung by like scorpions, like I said. I wouldn't say that it's like, it's not that bad of a feeling, depending on which one it is. But if you threw a scorpion on me, I would jump up, and, you can have a long conversation with yourself about, when you go to the pier, they're going to put a snake on your shoulders, just smile, throw the thumbs up, and put it on Facebook or whatever. But that like fear, that chemicals in your brain, it doesn't care about what you think. It doesn't care. And that goes to genetics too. People are more predisposed to stress, the same way, your hair, as it falls out because it's more susceptible and more sensitive to like your DHT hormones, I believe it is. It's the same thing that happens when I assume when you get stressed, because some people react more heavily to it. You could sit down and have like the most stressed out moment of your life. Like, you could be in your room one day and the police come knocking on your door and they said, or, we're sorry to tell you, but, your mother or your brother or your wife or your kids were just, victims of a head-on collision and they all died. And you could tell yourself, all right, Harvo Mel, okay, you just found out your entire family died in a car accident. Don't be sad. It'll go away. Don't be stressed. It doesn't matter what you tell yourself, because whatever you want to tell yourself, you're going to be sitting on the curb crying, pulling out your hair, your muscles are going to be twitching, you're going to be shaking. You're going to put a rag over you and you're just going to be shaking, crying. Like, most important thing is just the way your brain is operating. It doesn't matter what you say or think. And that's why I think about it, because like there's a perspective and then there's the objective. The perspective is religion, philosophy, ideas, self-help, amping yourself in a talk, just trying to like give yourself some oomph. If you're nervous to go to your girlfriend's parents' house because your girlfriend said, oh, my dad, he doesn't like you, my dad's really cruel, so like just kind of smile if he like throws verbal jabs at you, but you're really nervous about it. The chemical, the things going on in your brain are, they're really going to be the ones that dictate how the whole thing goes. And it annoys me, like, because really, like in my opinion, the most the best thing you could do is, no matter what, if you're stressed, if you're nervous, do it. Never stop doing it. Because the more you do it, or the more you don't do it, the bigger it becomes, the more power it has over you. You know, it doesn't mean that you're going to get it right the first time. You know, if you're nervous for a presentation at an auditorium, and you have to speak to your school, 50 people, not that much, 50, 250 people. And you have to speak in your school, on stage. Let's say hypothetically, you have to do it, even if in 10 years, in 5 years, and in 20 years, no matter what, let's just say hypothetically you have to keep doing it. If every deadline, when it's like, you have to do it, people show up, they're happy. If you don't do it, and you continue to do that, even if it doesn't, just to translate it to real world, even if it doesn't mean auditorium, it could be, all right, one day, the auditorium, you don't show up the next day, it's a job interview, then boom, 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 meeting your friends, family or something, It gets stronger and bigger. But I'm just talking in circles now. But this video I actually want to talk about when I started developing severe stress. So prior to the age, I want to say, of 13, I was very outgoing. Very outgoing. Like before the age of 13. That's one of the things about me. Like most black-pilled people, I hear from them, they always say, like, from the beginning it was over. They would say, like, oh, from the beginning I was nervous, or I was, always bullied or whatever. As a kid, I was very sociable. With strangers, with family, I had, no stress. As a kid, before the age of 13, I remember I was so talkative that, the teacher would get upset at me, justifiably so. She would send me to a new table, a completely random new table, never met any of the people, and instantly I would just start talking with them, just boom, boom, and we would all be laughing and having a good time. And then I would make new friends like that. I was a very social kid. I was very familiar with the teachers. Believe it or not, I used to be the class clown. I used to be a very funny kid. That doesn't mean really much. I wasn't like Norm Macdonald. I wasn't saying sophisticated, it wasn't like I was writing down jokes. But I was, as a kid, it's very easy to be funny, I always say that. But I was able to just keep that, I was able to keep that connection with people, to be social, to be talkative. And by the time I want to say, so I already told this story so many times, but I remember I went to a specific elementary school, and I was supposed to go to another school. At least I thought I was supposed to, which was just like the middle school version. It was the same name, just middle. And I was really looking forward to going to that school. But then once my mom and we got there and we tried to find our name in the system, they didn't have it. They did not have our name there. So I ended up. We went to the office in the school, and they said, I don't know, you have to go to the district, which was deep in the city. So my mom and we drove all the way down to the district, which takes a while. We go in there, I sit down, and we are I'm asking them, I'm like, where? They're like, oh yeah, for some reason they put you in this other school. But I was so excited that I just didn't care. I wanted to go to that school. So we ended up going to that school. This was pretty funny. And it turned out that still wasn't the school, because the school that we went to was the 7th and 8th grade version. And then they had a separate 6th grade school, which was only for 6th graders. So I went to 6th grade, and I loved it. made friends, loved my teachers, was very close with everybody. Many made friends. The thing about it is that I shouldn't be right here right now. I should not be right here. I had all the signs that I was going to be a normal person. Sure, they're like don't get me wrong, like I think for me, I think the things that happen early in life are very important, even though you don't recognize it at the time. Where at the time, if you would have asked me, I even told it to myself. People would ask me, they were like, what does it feel like not having a father? That your father left and, divorce and all that. I was like, I'm still very happy. But you don't realize how much damage that really does. The same way, you can't really blame a child who is constantly on the computer, constantly playing games all day when they have nothing else going for them in the real world, because the body, especially a child who's not as self-aware and it can't look that far into the future reliably, they will always go for the thing that makes them the most happy, just consuming either that slop, getting fat, or playing games and just kind of like running away from the real world. So that's how I was. As a kid, I didn't really realize it was that bad of a thing. Of course, later in life, you notice that a lot. And then, of course, being born into poverty, and then has just such a weird familial structure. My siblings are all 20 years older than me. Very confusing. But it's weird because it's like, I should not be like this. I should not be like this. I don't know if it's, again, like humans are a mixture of things. We're not just genetics, we're environment, we're we're many things, but it's like, I feel like so many things went wrong for me to just come out the worst that I should have. And I feel like I was robbed of a future that I never got to experience because of the way my brain works, or the way that it has connected multiple things, And like I said, even if you're aware of these things, it doesn't mean that you can control it. I could sit here and I've done it many times before and say that I'm being irrational. I'm being foolish. I tell myself things like, stop focusing on the past bad things. Stop focusing on child abuse you endured. Stop focusing on that. It doesn't matter. No matter what I say, me personally, maybe it's low agreeableness. I don't know what kind of personality trait that is. But it is completely irrelevant how I feel. How I think, because how I feel is the most important. And that's something you can't really control. So I did good in 6th grade. I had a lot of friends. I remember this was, ironically enough, I said this before, I had more freedom when I was in 6th grade than I do now at 22. I remember those days I would walk to and from the school bus. Then they would take us. And then I would sit in there with random people, talk, have long conversations. It was amazing. One of the most fondest time. I remember I told stories about it. Towards the end of the school year, I would just find new people and just sit with them and become friends with them. I remember in my art class, literally, I think I got moved around 3 times. And each time I was always just so talkative with people. And, in school, maybe that's not the, best thing. It's better to focus or whatever. But I would argue in life, developmentally, it is much more important for a child to be sociable and, adapted to those things than to know about basic painting that they're not really going to be interested in, So I was talking to a lot of people. I remember, it's crazy because I faintly remember these people, but I remember where I sat in the room. I remember which chair I sat in, I remember those things. And what has my life come to right now? If you took the branch of life and every, or I should say the trunk, the tree trunk of life, and every small branch, every outcome in life. It's almost, I wanted to make a video about it. There's this game called Plinko, I think. It's a gambling game. I don't gamble, but it's called Plinko, where for like $1 or something, you drop a ball and it bounces all over the place, ding, 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 down to a multiplier. So like in the center, it's like times 100. So if you put $1, you get $100. And of course, the more you get closer to the edge, the more the less money it gives you, or the more money it takes away from you with 0.1 times or something. And people would that's how life is. There's this big tree trunk of life, the beginning of your road, and infinite possibilities. Maybe from both your parents you developed too much agreeableness or something that leads you down a path of whatever. And then other people can you're this malleable thing. You're very malleable, especially as you're growing. But I remember sitting in those rooms, making friends, talking to people. My life, like I said, the average. If we follow the tree trunk from the bottom of the beginning of my life up to where the average should be, this is what my average should be, okay? I have a girlfriend because I would be sociable, and I work possibly either like one full-time job plus overtime, like 60 hours, or 2 jobs with a crappy car, living in a crappy apartment in the ghetto. That's what my life should be, because that's what everybody in my close vicinity pretty much experienced. Usually if you're born to poverty, you're probably going to stay in poverty. It's usually how it goes. Wealthy people like to say, it's loser mentality. Not really. I mean, if you're at the top, you're going to make exceptions too. But that's what my life should be. I should have a girlfriend right now. I should be, matter of fact, I should probably have a kid or 2 right now. I'm not saying that's a smart thing, but that's what the average is. A lot of my friends already have kids. They have kids, and they have relationships or whatnot. I'm not saying it's perfect. They fight a lot or whatever. But that's the thing. People would look at me and say that I'm in a good spot because I don't get to experience those things. That is the mentality of somebody who has suffered, and I have the mentality of somebody who wants to experience. I want to experience these things. I want to experience what it's like to have a girlfriend, to not be so loathing, and not to be so stressed out and in my own head. I want to experience what it's like to lay in a bed with the girl I love. I want to know what it's like to laugh with her. I want to know what it's like to go on our little late night dates of driving in the dark, going to go get some fast food, parking, listening to music, chatting, talking. People say if we live in a society that, people say this. They say, if we live in a capitalist society, then most people should be guaranteed a job because it's survival. It's like, then it's, in my opinion, it's like if life is objectively amazing, like everybody claims it is, then I think we should all be guaranteed an equal footing in life, in the sense of like, we should all be able to have a family. Because if you think about it, that's one of the most blackpilling, like most cruel things ever. Imagine that you can't have a family. And I bounce back and forth a lot. I don't want to have a family. I want to feel human. I want to feel love. I want to love the woman I love or whatever. And like recently I saw I saw a post, and maybe it's fake, maybe it's real, I don't know, but it's from this guy. His name's McJuggernuggets, and apparently people are saying too that he lied about it. But assuming it's real, he recently uploaded a video, like within the last month or something. That was like he was with his girlfriend, and she's pregnant, and then they found out that the baby, like 4 months in or something into the pregnancy, that has Down syndrome. So now they're planning on aborting it. And it's weird because, like, when I found out about it, I was like 100% with it, and now I'm a little bit. I'm not. It's weird to explain it because it's like I put myself in their shoes. I'm like, if I had Down syndrome, if I was autistic, I wouldn't want to deal with it. I wouldn't want to deal with it because especially men are treated a lot more harshly with those things, right? Like if you're a girl and you have autism, I forgot what it was, but like women with like mental illnesses like BPD, depression, everybody says they have those things, but women with like Down syndrome, autism, all those kinds of things, neurological or what is it called, chromosomal issues, they get a lot more opportunities. And if you look at it like again, in life, you go to people who have been on the moon, who have made renowned films, music, albums, compositions, pieces that will be remembered for decades, if not hundreds of years. You go to people who have bettered society and people who have done all those things. If you went to what's his name, Gutenberg, right, the dude who made the printing press, I forgot his name. If you went to Gutenberg or Nikola Tesla, or you went to Isaac Newton or Augustus, or if you went to Cyrus, or if you went to Julius Caesar, Napoleon, if you go to Martin Scorsese, if you go to Quentin Tarantino, if you go to these big people who have changed the world, some more than others, but assuming they have children and they have families and a loving wife, if you ask them, you say, what was the best day of your life? It's not, when I went on the moon, when I made this album that people love, or it's not when I made Taxi Driver or Pulp Fiction. It's when I had my kids, or when the day my son was born, the day my daughter was born, the day I got married. Maybe it's top 3, but they always put it up there. Maybe they're blue pilling, but we many men before us never got the opportunity. They died young. From famine, from war. Think about it. Men in World War I. Before World War I, really, war became very different post, I guess at World War I. It became like 9-day difference. Before World War I, for the most part, war was seen as like this honorable, this honorable, like this adventure, it's this masculine thing, protect the country and its people. And after World War, or I guess during World War, it became like just this brutal, just mass destructive bombings. I mean, you got artillery, you got bombings, you got chemical warfare. It was terrible. And that war was literally fought for nothing. For pretty much nothing. Those young men in Germany and France and the Ottoman Empire and Austria-Hungary and the Russian Empire, in the UK, Belgium, the Netherlands, the United States, mainly Europe though. Those people, those young men, as they were lining up, hoping, to get into the barracks, hoping, signing their name and forging their parents' signature to get in there. Those men were hoping that it would be an adventure, and then they would come back. It wasn't a guarantee, but they would come back and be with the woman they love. And it wasn't like that. It was literally World War I and World War II, alongside many other wars after that, was literally, especially World War II, it was just like, what do you even call it? Like, it was the equivalent of factorized killing, industrial killing, for no reason at all. And I question it because sometimes I try to debate with myself how much of what I think is because of genetics, or like just because of biblical or societal, just these things. And I think it's like, is nationalism and patriotism, and even to some extent like sports, is that linked to like something just evolutionary, like our tribalism? I don't know. But like, those young men, they were like, oh yes, I'm French, I'm from France, je suis ma belle, my name is Jacques. This dude Jack thought he was gonna go out to go fight the Germans, fight the good fight, protect the native Frenchmen, restore honor to their country, and their death probably meant something to them, And then they got there and it was just completely ravaged. World War II, industrialized killing. I mean, that was probably the most, like, what do you call it? That was the most, the closest that we got to, like, factory farming. I don't know what you call it. Like, it's weird when you really just imagine what people do. And the thing about it is this is because people are susceptible. We are emotional. Everybody wants to make it seem that we're all logical, or that some people are, oh, I'm smarter than, especially like white people are like that. They're like white people are like, oh, if I was born during the Civil War era, I would actually be, I wouldn't even be just against slavery. I would be like insanely, pro, what do you call it? Like pro multiculturalism, and when in reality it wouldn't be like that. If you were born in the South, you would be most likely pro slavery. If you were born in the North, you'd be against slavery, but you would still be very racist. And it's like that for everybody. It's not just like, a lot of the black people we got from Africa, they fucking, other black tribes got it for the Europeans, So I don't know. It's just interesting, I guess. Oh no. I don't know. Maybe we are just destined to we're just destined to be it's over. Never began. Same thing as always. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Goodbye. Wait a minute. It's actually a song. This is called Big Booty Latina. Big Booty Latina. How much of your brain is just chemical? It's over, never began. It never began. make a video on the morphine rat experiment too. I kind of want to do that one. But anyway, I guess I'll see you guys later. Bye.